Now, an extraordinary thing has been happening in London this week. The World Islamic Economic Forum has been meeting here, the first time it's ever been hosted by a non-Muslim country. Although in the unusually frank admission of one top banking official, quote, brand Islam sits uncomfortably in the West, particularly after 9/11, the UK is making it perfectly clear that it wants to be part of the world of Islamic investments, estimated to reach $1.5 trillion this year. Prime Minister David Cameron announced that Britain would be the first Western country to issue an Islamic bond worth £200 million next year. Mr. Cameron has declared that he wants London to join the ranks of Dubai as a hub for Islamic finance. My exclusive guest tonight, Malaysia's Prime Minister Najib Razak, kicked off the forum this week with, among other things, a robust defence of why women should be at the heart of the effort to boost Muslim nations' economies and development. A majority Muslim nation, Malaysia is ethnically and culturally diverse with a vibrant economy, an appealing destination for investors and tourists. Although the global recession has taken its toll, as the UK makes its move to the lucrative Islamic market, the US is still working on its pivot to Asia. And you'll hear what the Prime Minister thinks of President Obama cancelling his trip to Malaysia last month due to the US government shutdown. I asked Prime Minister Najib Razak about all of this, as well as other pressing issues at home concerning his coalition's nearly six-decade rule, allegations of vote rigging in the last election, and the dangers his reforms face from his conservative flank. Prime Minister, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
The Prime Minister of Britain wants this country to be the world capital for Islamic finance and investment. Is that a realistic objective?
Well, I think it's realistic because in terms of Europe in particular, I think the City of London will be in the best position to do so because of the linkages with the Muslim world and because of the expertise that they have here in banking, particularly conventional banking. But there is a role that Malaysia can play, and I've stated in my speech that we're willing to work with the City of London to promote Islamic banking, Islamic finance.
What does it exactly mean? What is an Islamic bond? What is Islamic finance?
Islamic finance is based on sharing of risk, and it's more asset-based. Therefore, it's deemed to be fairer and more equitable. It offers a very concrete model in a world that's full of uncertainties, and certainly conventional finance, which is by and large based on speculative considerations.
How bad was it that President Obama had to cancel his trip to Malaysia?
It was a missed opportunity for Obama to assert his leadership, particularly in the context of his policy pivot towards Asia. I know he regrets it. I know he sees it in that manner. And when he called me, he said, by hook or by crook, I will visit Malaysia next year. So we're looking forward to receiving. I don't think it's fatal. I don't think, I just see that as a missed opportunity.
Let me go back to what you spoke about in your UN speech. You talked about the need for moderation. You said that one of the greatest threats to Islam and to Muslims around the world is within, not from the outside. Let me quote a little bit of what you said. That extremism is taking lives and crushing opportunity. I believe the greatest threat to Muslims today comes not from the outside world, but from within. Can you win this battle?
We have to do more, really. I mean, that it's very alarming. This conflict between the Sunni and the Shia is really tearing apart the Muslim world. And it's about time, we come to our senses and realize that moderation is the only path that will ensure peace and stability for the Muslim world and also for the wider world.
And there's also so much conflict between moderation, as you say, and not just extremism, but conservatism. Let's look at Egypt right now. I'd like to know your take on whether you think that it was the right thing to do to basically depose an elected government there. And right now, the latest to have been arrested was actually a moderate member of the Muslim Brotherhood, Essam al-Arian, who's well known to all of us and to all of you. How can that further the cause of moderation?
I know what I would have done. I would have, if I were the military or those who didn't like the Muslim Brotherhood, I would have waited until the next election, because they were elected and they deserve a chance to perform and to show their worth. But that's water under the bridge now. They have to find some sort of national reconciliation, if possible. It's not going to be easy because there's strong positions, both sides. But there must be a form of national reconciliation.
You look fairly troubled about it, and I wonder whether you think this has a real chilling effect on the idea of a moderate democracy in the Islamic world.
In a sense, it does, because if you push it to the extreme and you don't accept democracy and the will of the people, I have a problem with that.
It looks like you are under quite a lot of pressure from your conservatives at home, and they're kind of forcing you into a lot of U-turns as well regarding a lot of the reforms that you introduced. How much pressure are the conservatives putting on you right now? I mean, we read, for instance, superficial things that we see, like the court says only Muslims can use Allah to refer to God, whereas religions in Malaysia traditionally use that word to refer to God, whether they were Muslim or not. We see that a pop star is banned from playing in Malaysia. It's bad, isn't it?
My priority is to ensure peace and harmony in Malaysia. That is uppermost in my mind. So when a court decides a certain thing, I have to respect the court's decision. To me, it's not about winning a legal argument. To me, it goes beyond that.
But what does that say about the course of moderation? Look, your critics are saying that you just survived a pretty vicious internal battle. You won your latest election with a lower majority than you had before. You didn't win the popular vote, but your coalition, came to power. And that you're having to throw, quote-unquote, red meat at the Conservatives and at the hardliners, who you've been trying to change with some of your reforms. Just tell me, frankly, how difficult it is to walk that line of moderation.
It's all about having a long-term vision for the country. And we are committed to that long-term vision for the country. But to move towards that long-term vision, to achieve our long-term goals, there will be some growing pains along the way. And if you want long-term stability, you must make sure that the majority of the people are not marginalized. But having said that, we do cater as well in a very inclusive way for the small minorities. For example, in my budget speech, I addressed the concerns of the Malaysian Indians, for example. So we are not racist at all.
I hear what you're saying, but some of the facts may dispute that. For instance, we read about a massive brain drain by some Malaysian Indians, by some of the Chinese, because they're worried about these things. You say you're not racism, they say, well, hang on a second, the deck is stacked against us. Surely this is a problem as you try to keep your economic engine generating as well.
The only way that we can be competitive, so to speak, to keep talent at home is to provide more and more opportunities, create high-paying jobs. That's exactly what we're doing. And I'd like to mention that in the recent, very, very recent World Bank survey of ease of doing business, we have jumped from 12th position last year to 6th in the world. So that speaks volumes of the reforms that we are doing in Malaysia.
Talk to me about power and the accumulation of power. Your party, coalition, has been in power for 56 years. That's a long time by anybody's reckoning. Do you agree?
Yeah, I hope it's not too long.
Some would say it's too long. And seriously, some would say, and I'm going to read you a list of what some of your critics say. There are lots of allegations of fraud, of buying votes, of double voting, of phantom voters, the issue of gerrymandering. What do you say to that? Do you accept any of that? Do you deny it all?
By and large, the allegations are totally unfounded. They've not been able to prove anything at all. For example, they allege that we brought in 40,000 people from Bangladesh to vote in the last election. And since the last election, they've not been able to adduce any evidence of that.
But the allegations are mounting, and human rights people want to know exactly, what direction you're going in. Does any of it concern you? Since
I took over office, I've got a very positive record. For example, I have disbanded the Internal Security Act, which is detention without trial. I've ended 50 years of emergency rule in Malaysia, or powers relating to emergency rule in Malaysia. I've allowed for peaceful assembly in Malaysia. So I stand by my record that we have made fundamental changes in Malaysia.
You're obviously under pressure. You've admitted it yourself. You have a lot of conservatives on your flank trying to undo a lot of the reforms, trying to promote one of the things that has been quite troublesome, and that is preferential treatment to ethnic Malays, among other things. How much is your attempt to reform and to drive moderation in Malaysia under threat right now?
I believe we will achieve our goals. In every country there will be people representing the whole breadth of the political spectrum. Look what's happening in the United States, for example. They have the Tea Party wreaking havoc with the whole political process in the United States. But fortunately, we don't have to that extent in Malaysia. We do have people who are perhaps more conservative in their views. We have people who are more concerned about some of the ethnic balance in Malaysia.
Wreak a different kind of havoc.
Yes, but we can manage. We have went through reasonably successful election, and the party election was hugely successful. So I have the mandate from the people, I have the mandate from the party, and I know with the mandate from the party and the people, we can make the reforms, and we will deliver Malaysia as an advanced economy come the year 2020. God willing, inshallah.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.